This story begins in the city of Jiangcheng, where a boy approaches a girl and tells her, "Beauty, I see you have a black aura around you." He also tells her that today she will have a bloodbath and a catastrophe. This girl turns around and the boy asks her why doesn't she shed some blood to prevent future disasters. At that, the girl doesn't understand anything of what that guy was trying to tell her, so she remembers that in her purse, she has a feminine towel, and that she shouldn't forget it. But she gets angry and calls the guy an idiot. She also tells him that she is not a virgin and that she doesn't want to go out with him. At that, we see the boy look up and thinks that he was kind enough to help her, but she had called him an idiot. Then the guy remembers that he has been gone from the city for 5 years, so he wonders if Jiangcheng's women had all become this rude. Then he remembers that that city was not Kunlun Zoo and thinks that there are mortals everywhere, so it is normal not to believe in others. After that, we are in another scene where the boy is recalling a bit of his past and tells us that he was born into the Yi family of Jiangcheng, and although he was always bullied by his peers, he was happy with his family of 3. Then he says that 5 years ago, all that had been ruined, so he explained that it had all started when his father was trying to save a girl. He had offended a man in the capital. So a few days later, at a banquet in the village of Cloud Lake, the entire Yi family was slaughtered, and he was the only one left alive. He then narrates that the families who had favored his own, as well as his father's former friends and his most trusted uncle, none of them did anything to prevent them from being killed. Then we see how the enraged child with a knife in his hand tries to attack a guy. He asks him what the hell is the Yi family of Jiangcheng, and he tells the little boy that even if it is a family from the capital, he could destroy it with his own hands. He also asks the boy how dare he kill him in such an insolent way. After that, the boy continues to narrate and tells us that in the end, if his mother had not pushed him into the East Kayan Lake, he could not have survived. He then tells us that he had been saved by his master and went with him into the void of the Kunlun. Back in the present, the boy thinks that he is now back in Jiangcheng due to a mission that his master had entrusted to him, in that the boy calls himself by his name as Yi Chen, and swears that all blood debts, he will pay them double. But in that, because of his anger, he ends up affecting the people in the street with some power. These people say that suddenly their bodies are weak and they can't move, also that for some reason they can't breathe. Then the boy realizes what happened, and while he escapes from the situation, the people who were in that place wonder what had happened, and that they had felt something very strange. After that, the boy thinks that first he should take care of the task that his old teacher had given him, since after all it had been a long time. And that's why they are in no hurry to take revenge. In another scene, we found ourselves in a large building where Jiangcheng's Huame Group, one of the 500 largest companies in China, and one of the most important in the city, was located. Then the boy wonders if this is the right place. Then he tells that 3 days ago, his master had broken the formation and discovered the divine designs, finding that a girl named Xia Ruixu will have a catastrophe in 100 days, where there is a high probability that she will die. Then he tells that as his destiny turned out to be the patron of the purple dragon, who can break this catastrophe, so for that reason he had been sent to this mission. In addition, he recalls that his old master, in a passage he had in the city of Jiangcheng, had a love-hate relationship with Xia Ruixu's grandmother, and at that moment he wonders if this girl might not be his master's granddaughter. But Yi Chen decides to go ahead and take a look. At that, the guards stop him, to which Yi Chen asks if there is a girl named Xia Ruixu in that place, since he was supposed to meet her. So one of the guards asks him if he has a date, to which Yi Chen replies that he had not been able to make an appointment, and what he had to talk to her in person. It was very important. He also says that if it is convenient, he would wait for her on the sofa, to which the guards stop him by telling him that Miss Xia was not someone that just anyone could meet. He also tells him that by his appearance, he looks like a poor street person, and how dare he wait for Miss Xia like the others. He also asks him what was so important that he had to talk to Miss Xia, and not believing him, the guard asked him to leave the place. But at that moment, Yi Chen neutralizes them with the same power he had used a moment before. At that moment, the guards did not know what was happening, and one of them thought for a moment that he would die, to which Yi Chen tells them to be very careful with what they said, and not to act like idiots for nothing. Also, the protagonist wonders how is it that today there are so many unqualified and unfit people. After that, he sits on the sofa and asks to call the manager. At that, a guy in a suit and tie introduces himself to Yi Chen. He introduces himself as the head of the security department and asks him if he has thought about the consequences his actions caused. So Yi Chen replies that he will only say it one more time, that he was just looking for Xia Ruixu and asks him not to mess with him. At that, the guy thinks what will happen to this guy, and thinks that he has bloodlust in his eyes. He also thinks that he even makes him feel that if he messes with him again, he would kill them all like ants. At that, the guy tells Yi Chen that Miss Xia was not there at that time, and if he liked he could leave his number to contact him when she comes. To which Yi Chen asked him if there was nothing to do, since she was not there. But the guy is excited because he had been able to deal with that dangerous guy. But at that, Yi Chen tells him that he had nothing better to do anyway, so he would just sit there and wait for her, and not to worry about him, since they could go about their business as usual. The guy wonders how he could let such a dangerous person walk around like that, and thinks that if the situation continues like that, he would lose his job. So he asks the security to help him get the guy out. But at that, a beautiful girl asks him to stop and that she will now take care of the situation. At that, 2 guys are amazed by the beauty of the girl who had appeared, and one of them tells the other that it is Principal Sunny, and that the only person who could compete with her in terms of beauty and appearance was Principal Zia Ryuksu. At that, the head of security asked Principal Sun to stay away, as it was too dangerous for her, but she responded by asking him to leave them alone. At that moment, the girl introduces herself to Yi Chen and asks him if there is anything she could do for him. But at that, our protagonist is astonished and thinks that in the past 5 years, if there were people he could not have forgotten, one of those people was Sunny. So he begins to narrate that when he was a high school student, he had been tablemates with her for a whole year and had had a very good relationship with her. But that later in high school, due to the difference in status, they rarely interacted again. Until after the Cloud Lake Village incident, he had practically died with his family and disappeared. He also tells that at that time, the Yi family compound had been taken over, so the Yi family had become an existence that everyone in the city yelled at and beat up. So all the families announced that they no longer had any ties with the Yi family, and the Tanjin group, which had been founded by his father, had been taken over by other people, and that almost everyone was under the shadow of that man. Chen also said that Sunny, despite her family's opposition, had put up with the rumors and fears, and went to the morgue to look for her parents' bodies and took them to the crematorium herself. After that, she even put up a tombstone for our family of 3 in the mountains of Tiandang. But until now, Chen didn't understand how a girl like her could have done all that, and he wonders how he could bear what she did. He also thinks that he didn't expect to meet her here today. But at that, Chen comes to his senses and Sun tells him that he is too close to her, to which he replies apologetically, and Sun asks him again if there was anything she could do for him, since he was lost in thought. But Chen apologizes once again and explains that she was very much like an old friend, and that's why he was so lost in his thoughts. At that, Sun replies to him that that was old-fashioned and orders the security people that if he was waiting for someone, that he could keep waiting here. He also orders them not to make a fuss about it anymore and apologizes to Chen. At that, the prota thinks that Sunny had changed a lot in the past years and blushes to think that even her breasts had also gained a lot of volume. After that, he thinks that for now he would give up on Zia Ryuksu. After that, we change the scene and we see Sun in her car and she is surprised to see Chen in the rearview mirror. He greets her saying beauty, and then Sun asks her how did she get there, and what did he want with her. At that, Chen asks if he could take him, but Sun asks if he wasn't waiting for someone. And she also asks him for his name, since she couldn't let someone get into her car without a name. At that, Chen is analyzing Sun and he thinks for sure that in the space between her eyes, and the middle height of her forehead becomes dark, and even has a hint of blood, as that is a sign of something serious, so he can't let her get hurt. At that, the prota introduces himself by name as Yi Chen and also tells her that she can call him Chen. In another scene, we are in the Longhu Hotel, where we see Chen and Sun, and the guys who are in the hotel are amazed by the girl. And one of them wonders who is that woman, and that her body is so stunning. Another one of them replies that she is Sunny, the director of Hyume. After that, these guys also wonder why she is with a guy, and they mention that it is the first time she brings a man to a party and wonder why this guy is so badly dressed. Once Sun chooses a table and asks Chen to sit at the table, some guys come up to her and one of them tells her that he has finally been able to meet her, and he introduces himself as Gu Heidong, the founder of Yuncheng Group, and asks her to sit at the same table. The other guy also introduces himself as Kaian Yang, and tells her that the Haoyang Hotel was owned by his family. The third guy tells her that he would also like to sit at the same table with her. At that moment, several of the subjects tell her that it is very difficult to meet with her, and several of them ask her to have a drink with them. But at that, Chen, taking one of the drinks, says how about if he has a few drinks for her, to which several of the guys ask him who the hell was he to keep them company. What was his name and who was he? But when Chen was about to introduce himself, Sun interrupts him saying that that was no way to refuse a drink, so from now on she would take care of everything. Then she turns to the other gentlemen asking them to excuse her, because she wasn't given to that drink thing and that she could only take a small sip and she hoped they would understand and not insist on it. After seeing the guys drooling over Sun, out of nowhere a strange guy appears saying that Miss Sun was a bit exaggerated when she said she would only take a sip. Sun identifies this guy as Chen Feng, the second young master of the Chen family. At that, the people around them wondered how Sun Yin got into trouble with that guy. And another one says that he had heard that last time, Sunny had thrown wine in her face. This Feng guy tells her that last time she had left without saying goodbye, and that she hadn't really given him face, so she had to drink that bottle of wine to make up for it, and that she should understand that this was not a request, but rather an order. To which Sun replies that she was not a good drinker and would only cause trouble for him if she drank too much, so he asks her if she could only have that one glass. At that, Sun remembers that the last time he had bought her a drink, she had discovered that there was something wrong with the wine, and since he was probably high, she had spilled some wine on him. But he told her not to worry, since he had a presidential suite, and there was plenty of room for her to sleep when she was drunk, and he asked her once again to drink. At that, Sun wondered inside himself, what should he do, since Chen Feng's virtues were well known, because whenever he liked a girl, even if she was a student, he would drug her no matter what, and that's how this kind of scum is. At that, Feng gets upset and yells at her that how dare she not drink from his drink. What if she wanted to pretend to be a good girl? He also demands that she had to drink today. At that, Sun thinks that she had been born in an ordinary family, so she had given up her studies to quickly enter society, and it had taken her a long time to climb up to the position of director. Although in the eyes of others, she was superior, but compared to the son of a big big family, she was nobody. But at that moment, Chen appears, and when he snatches the bottle, Feng gets very angry and Chen sends him to bother him somewhere else by breaking the bottle on his head. At that, Feng asks him who the hell was he, and how dare he hit him, since not even his father had dared to hit him before. But Chen replies that who the hell was he to force her to drink. At that, the terrified onlookers begin to say who was that guy, and that he had hit none other than the Chen family's young master in Jiangcheng. And that the scariest thing is that the Chen family is said to have a former martial artist on their side, so that guy won't survive from tonight, since he dared to mess with the Chen family. At that, Sun wonders how could that happen, and she regrets for involving this boy, so she apologizes to Feng and tells him that she will drink whatever and as much wine as she can that night, as long as they let her friend go. At that, Feng gets angry and tells her that she didn't have the right to talk to him about conditions, because tonight not only she was in danger, but that boy would also die. She also tells him that he will not only have fun with her, but also have fun in front of him. But while Chen was kicking him in his noble parts, he was cursing and telling him that he wanted to be killed tonight. At that, the Prota asks him who had said that he wanted him to die tonight, and also tells him that they would see which of the two is the one who would end up dead. At that moment, Chen hears a voice asking him to stop, and that guy who had spoken to him also demands him to let him go. At that time, the spectators who were around say that it was the head of the Chen family, Chen Zhengguo. They also wondered what he was doing here. But at that, Chen says inside that the old man in front of him had a great aura, that he was surely a legendary and ancient martial artist. At that, while Sun wonders how did Mr. Zhengguo get there, Feng asks his father for help. At that, Chen releases him and continues thinking about the old man, and says that surely he must be what they call an ancient Chinese martial artist. Feng is complaining to his father that the guy had kicked him in the crotch and that he had to do something about it. But the father replies to him to shut up and back off, then asks who was that guy. To which the old man says that that boy was also a martial artist, and judging by his age, he must have trained in the mortal warrior realm not too long ago. But Chen asks Zhengguo if he was offered anything else, to which he replies that he had put him to great embarrassment today, so he wonders what he should do with him. And he orders the old man that since he had a good heart, if the old man asks for mercy, he only had to leave his body intact. To which the old man tells the Prota that it wasn't so easy to be young and have so much skill, and that it's a pity that it all has to end like this. But at that, Chen tells Sun that he would take care of the situation. While the old man tells the boy that he had messed with the wrong people, this one rushes to attack Chen. This one also tells him that if he begs for mercy, he could still leave him alive. At that, Sun thinks that had been too fast and did not understand what had happened. He also wonders if that old man was the so-called ancient martial artist. After that, Chen insults the old man, asking him if he had already chosen a coffin, or if he had someone at home to give him a proper funeral. The old man gets angry and attacks the insolent boy, but is surprised because Chen dodges his attack and quickly strikes back with a powerful counterattack. Having neutralized the old man, Chen tells him that he was a very bad old man and asks him if that was supposed to be a sneak and surprise attack. At that, everyone present is amazed and praises the Prota for being so strong, so the Prota asks who's next to take him on. To which Zhengguo, terrified, says that the incomparable old man Ming had been defeated by this young man, and wonders what is this, and how could this situation have happened. At that memento, the old man reacts and asks Chen who the hell was he, and how could he have such a strong cultivation. At that point, Chen gets angry and tells him that he wasn't worthy of knowing who he really was. But right there, people wonder why the guy was yelling like that, and they also wonder what was going on, for their ears could not stand the loud noise. At that moment, Chen approaches Feng's father and asks him if he was Zhengguo. He also repeats to him the words he himself had said a moment ago, that you have a good heart, that you would leave my body intact. Then the Prota recalls that at that time, in the fall of the Yi family, Zhengguo's family had also had their share. But at that, Zhengguo orders the security to arrest him, and they tell the boy that he is alone and that they will catch him. They also ask Zhengguo not to forget to give them a raise. But at that, after easily getting rid of the guys, Chen says that the common people could not do him any harm. At that very moment, Zhengguo and his son was begging Chen on his knees. Chen tells him that it was his fault for not having educated his son well, so he asks him to please let them live, and Feng apologizes, as he did not know that Sun was his girl and that he had made a mistake for that. But Chen replies that he could not forgive them, as it was time to collect the debt. At that very moment, Chen hears a voice asking him to stop. It was a policewoman demanding him to stay away from those two. At that moment, the police girl was astonished to see that it was Zhengguo. She asked him why he was on his knees, and what had that boy done. So Zhengguo cheers him up, thinking that they had been saved, since any martial artist could not do anything in front of the authority. But the police girl is astonished to see Zhengguo's old martial artist, and wonders if that boy would have done it. But at that, Chen tells the police girl that the guy was a criminal, as he had tried to molest her friend. But the police girl demands him to let him go, and that if he doesn't obey, she would have no choice but to shoot him. At that, Chen thought it was impressive that the woman was a cop, so she told her that this was a personal matter, so she had no reason to interfere. At that, the police girl thinks that this guy had a screw loose, because even if it is a normal fight, the police should take care of it. So she gives Chen one last warning and tells him to back off, put his hands on his head and drop to the ground. But at that point, she responds to the cops by asking them what's up with that. What if they had nothing better to do? But quickly, Sun interrupts him and apologizes, saying that he will stop right now. At that, she tells Chen that they'd better leave it at that, to which Chen asks why. To which she replies that if he doesn't stop, he would deal with her and that he should listen to her now and do what she tells him to do. At that moment, she tells the police girl that her friend had already surrendered and that she had no reason to shoot him. At that, Chen asks what he should do and if he had to wait for them to come and handcuff him. To which Sun answers him not to worry, and that he should leave everything in their hands now, so they should now go to the police station and declare exactly what had happened, and that after that they would be fine, since everything he had done was in self-defense. To which Chen replied that no one could stop him from leaving anyway. Once in the police room, one of the policemen approaches the girl and calls her captain. He tells her that they had already watched the hotel surveillance video at least 10 times, and that part of the content had been erased earlier, but that the rest of the recording clearly showed that Yi Chen was acting in self-defense. The policewoman is surprised to hear that part of the video had been erased and asks her partner what part it was. He replies that when the old man was with Yi Chen, the next frame shows the old man lying on the ground and it was not clear what had happened. At that the police girl thinks that they had arrived fast enough to the scene, and that she could not believe that someone could have taken the opportunity to erase part of the recording, so there could be a very powerful person behind that guy. At that she says that since there was not enough evidence of guilt, they could only rule that he was justified in defending himself, and gives the order for him to be released. Outside the police building, Sun tells Chen that she was right and that being free felt great, and also says that when she returns home, she will take a bath to wash off her bad luck. But at that the Prota thinks that Zheng Guo and his son posed a big problem for her, so once he leaves Jiangcheng City, they will not leave Sun alone. So he thinks he should find time to settle the score with those two. But in that, Sun thinks that Chen always has a suspicious and very dangerous attitude. But at that, after Chen asked her why she was staring at him, she replies that she just wanted to ask him where he lived, and that she would take him there without any problem. But Chen replied that he had just arrived in Jiangcheng, so he had not found a place to live yet. And since it was too late now, he would have to sleep in the park tonight. At that moment, Sun told him that she thought that he could stay at her house, since she had an empty room that he could use, although it was not very big. But it was better than sleeping in the street. Chen asked her if she wasn't afraid that he would do bad things to her, or maybe because he had saved her, she now wanted to pay him with her body. But Sun answers very embarrassed that if he accepted or not, to which our protagonist quickly told her that he did. At that we see the police girl who is still thinking about what happened. She says that leaving aside the fact that the video had been sabotaged, Mr. Zheng Guo's bodyguards were all retired special forces, and she wonders how is it that having this guy in front of them, they couldn't eliminate him, in which she thinks it is difficult for her to handle that situation alone, so she should find someone to help her. So this girl calls her brother from her phone. She asks him if he is busy, because she would ask him for a big favor. She asks her brother to watch the video she had sent him, and to analyze the guy shown there. Then we change the scene completely. We find ourselves in the mountains of Siberia. There we see this guy who says that his little sister is really restless with her family business. He wonders why she became a cop in such a small place, since he's always helping her solve crimes. This one also says that at least he is a captain of the Dragon Spirit Commando unit, and not a police officer. Then we see how he uses a power to attract his laptop to check the video that his sister had sent him. To which this guy says that this group of bodyguards surely have to be special forces veterans, but that he wonders how dare they intimidate a child. It's a disgrace. After watching some more of the video, he is amazed that the boy easily neutralized a former martial artist, and seeing that the boy is not a normal martial artist, he calls his sister back to ask her right now for all the information on the mysterious boy in the video. After that we met at Jiangcheng's metropolitan apartments. At that we see Sun telling Chen that the bathroom was unoccupied, and that she could go take a shower quietly. And as the main character enters the bathroom, he thinks that this girl is really very absent-minded. After that he begins to tell us that 5 years ago he had been saved by his teacher, and he thought that was a great blessing. But to his surprise, it was the beginning of a nightmare. Then he tells us that the first day, without giving him any explanation, the old man had left him in a cage and he had to fight against a tiger that had already been starving for 3 days. Chen tells us that in the end he had been able to survive. But after that, the old man began to teach him how to farm while taking him to various fierce places to get the best out of him. He also tells us that in each of those places, he faced certain death, but nevertheless, each time he was able to survive to the end of each trial. But because of that, he had stayed alive until now, and that it was nothing more than endless anger and hatred. He also says very angrily that he will find all those who participated in the Yunhu village meeting at that time, and he will make them all pay with interest. Already in the kitchen, we see Sun thinking that she didn't have any clothes for Chen to change into, and that she should have taken him to buy some clothes earlier. But at that, she realizes that she had forgotten to hide her underwear when she took them off to take a bath. She says that under no circumstances should she let Chen see her. At that, she enters the bathroom and asks our protagonist to leave for a moment, as she had to pick up something. But she gets very nervous when she sees Chen naked. He asks her if she couldn't wait for him to put on some clothes first. But Sun runs out saying she's leaving and apologizes for the awkward situation she herself had caused. At that we see Sun in her room very embarrassed, repeating to herself that she hadn't seen anything. At that moment Chen is outside the room thinking that apparently Sun would not leave the room again that night. But at that Chen in a macabre way says that he also had to take care of some unfinished business, and that he had to get rid of the evil from the root. In another scene, we are now in Zheng Guo's family's villa. At that Feng asks his father to stop shaking, as he was making him dizzy. But at that, Zheng Guo slaps him and tells him that if it wasn't for him, old Ming would not be seriously injured or reduced to a cripple. And now that old Ming was gone, the whole family was unprotected. But at that Feng replies that they were still counting on grandfather, and that no one would dare make a move when grandfather was still around. But Zheng Guo replied that he was still panicking and that if they did not eliminate that boy soon, he would not feel safe. So the next day they would go to Wuyi Mountain to ask another old man for help. At that, Feng gets excited saying that Grandpa with just one move could finish that boy. And when that happens, while Grandpa breaks that boy's arms and legs, he would torture Sunny in front of him so that he can see everything. But at that, a mysterious voice appears asking if he meant Sunny, and he also asks how dare he touch her. At that, the father and son were surprised to see that it was Yi Chen who comfortably told him that they had to talk more about the matter. At that, Feng asked him if he wanted to kill them, to which Zheng Guo answers him to calm down, since that boy would not dare to kill them in his own house. But at that, the protagonist asks him if he really didn't think he was capable of doing it. And while cutting Feng's throat, he affirms that he would dare to do it and asks Zheng Guo if he still believed the same. But then Zheng Guo regrets the death of his son and asks Chen why he had done it, since they had no grudge. At that, Chen asks him, grudge you say? Well, there is a phrase that says that every cloud has a silver lining. But he is amused that even Zheng Guo believes that there is no grudge between them. To which Chen laughs. Chen asks him if he remembered the night of the banquet in Yunhu village 5 years ago. And to be more precise, the Yi family couple who had died that night. But at that, Zheng Guo is shocked and terrified and says that it is possible that this boy is the son of the Yi family trash that had fallen into the river. He also says that it was impossible, since that child must have died back then. But Chen tells him that before killing him, he would reveal a secret to him. He tells him that he is not an ancient martial artist like the ones he usually calls or the ones everyone knows, but rather he was a cultivator. Then he also tells him that in his eyes, a martial artist may be an extremely powerful person, but in the eyes of cultivation practitioners, that even if he has a martial arts master behind him, or even some clan, he could cut them all down with just a sword. After killing the two guys, Chen says that the city of Jiangcheng that everyone knew was about to change. In another place called Wuyi Mountain, we see Zheng Guo's father named Chen Yuanli. He wonders what was going on. What if his son and grandson were dead? At that, this enraged old man said that he swore to the heavens that he would find the assassin, and he himself would kill him and cut him into 1,000 pieces. Back at Sun's house, we see Chen doing his cultivation meditation, in that he thinks that the spiritual energy of China is very weak, and that he was no match for that place. So to cultivate more, now he should make some pills. At that, he remembers that the anniversary of his parents' death will be in a week, and he will go to Tiandan Mountain to visit them. He picks up a stone and says that this black stone was given to him by his father when he was 11 years old. He had told him that it was an heirloom of the Yi family, but Chen thinks it is just an ordinary stone. At that, the proto realizes that there are some words written on the stone, which said drop of blood. He says that although the writing is not legible, he believes it says that it requires a drop of blood so that it can identify its bearer. He uses a drop of his blood to see what happened, and then something happens to him, to which he says that he feels very tired and that he can't take it anymore. In that, we see that Chen is in a kind of cemetery and wakes up with a tremendous headache recognizing a black mist and wonders what the hell was that strange place. At that, a demonic apparition comes to him as an insignificant human in the last Hauki stage, and asks him how is it that a trash like him dared to enter the cemetery of reincarnation. And he also tells him that even if he wanted to, he could not awaken even the weakest of tombstones. After that, he tells him that if he doesn't want to die, he'd better get the hell out of here. Chen wakes up in Sun's house again and is very confused by what had happened. He thinks that everything was caused by that stone and remembers that his father had told him that it was an ancient treasure. Then he begins to think that because of what he had heard that voice, he wonders if it could be that only if he reaches a certain amount of strength he will be able to invoke the great powers hidden inside the tombstones. To which this piece that should be a joke, since in that place there were more than 100 tombstones in the cemetery of reincarnation, so he wonders if then there were 100 powers to awaken. At that, Sun knocks on the door and asks Chen if he had already risen, and mentions that the food was ready, and that if it took too long, he would have to eat it cold. At that, he replied that in a moment he was going and thought of the cemetery of reincarnation. Already in the living room of the house, the two boys are having breakfast, to which Chen tells Sun that she was very good with him, so he offered her his body, and that he would cook for her and warm her bed in the winter. To which she replies that if he by saying he would warm her bed, did he mean to take advantage of her, and that he didn't need to, since his bed had a heater for the winter nights. But if he wanted to stay in her house, there would be no problem. She tells him that firstly, the rent was paid monthly, and secondly, he had to take care of his own chores. To which Chen replies that he still had no money at that time. At that, Sun asked herself how come he didn't have any money. What if he was trying to get her to take care of him? At that moment, Chen takes a pen and pencil and begins to write quickly after he gives the paper to Sun. He tells him that this was the recipe for the skincare product, and that it was only a low-quality product, but that it was enough to feed a public company, and that with it there would be no problem to cover the rent. To which Sun asked him how that recipe could feed an entire public company, and did he have some kind of misunderstanding with public companies. He replies that if the group she worked for was not a beauty company, and he mentions that if she shows this recipe to the technical department, they will know the value. Then he tells her that he could assure her that it is worth at least 10 million. At that moment, Sun's cell phone starts ringing. It was Miss Xia Ruixu. She tells Sun that there was a meeting that she had to attend. At that, Sun tells Chen that she was in a hurry, and that at that moment she didn't have time to listen to his nonsense. To which Chen says that he had heard that Chinese medicine was no longer practiced today, but that he did not believe this to be true. Already in the streets of Jiangcheng, Chen is selling his medicinal products, in that he says that he has a wonderful bone rejuvenator, with which they could stay alive longer. He also says that for being the first day of opening his business, he will give them a 20% discount. Then he explains that this treatment can cure all diseases, and that the consultation fee was only 100,000, so if they did not have money, they could not be cured. At that, the people around him wonder from which psychiatric hospital did this crazy man come from. Another says that thieves now openly rob people, so he asks another guy to call the police. At that, Chen realizes that they wanted to charge him with the police, and he thinks it would be better to set up his business somewhere else. But at that moment, a girl appears from among the people. This girl asks the protagonist to please go with her to another place. At that time we arrive at a mansion, in which the girl tells him that they had already arrived and that this was his house. But then Chen is amazed by how big this house was, and tells the girl not to worry, since he would cure his whole family. To which the girl tells him that he is wrong, since he was not there to cure. At that Chen asks her why she had brought him there then. At that the girl begins to explain that the reason why she had brought him to her house was because of his ability to cheat and lie. To which Chen replies that he was neither a liar nor a swindler, and also tells her that he didn't have time to play with her, so it would be better for her to find someone else. At that this girl gives him a card and tells him that there was 100,000 on it. To which Chen takes it back and tells her that he would do whatever she asked him to do. To which this girl thinks she liked the rebellious attitude he had before. At that the girl begins to explain to him what she wanted him to do, so she tells him that the thing was that since her father had been sick, the doctor had said that her father wouldn't last more than a few days. But since her parents were very close, she was afraid that her father would actually die and that her mother would do something stupid because she wasn't thinking clearly. So she hoped that he could pose as a doctor and take her father away before he died, pretending that he would take him to the mountains to cure his illness. She also tells him that she believes that if they can get through that period of time, her mother will be able to accept her father's departure and get over it. At that Chen thinks that this is not the best way to use him, but since he was there and had been paid well for it, it was another story. He tells the girl that he will take care of it and will accomplish the task successfully. At that the girl tells him that she was counting on him and that she would no longer have to call the police. While Chen is confused that she would call the police, she tells him that if he didn't agree, she would turn him into the police. The boys are about to enter the mansion and a lady greets them at the entrance, to which the old lady says that bringing strangers at this time would be something very delicate. To which the girl replies that he was her friend, and that he would help them, and reminds Chen what they had agreed before. To which he replies that he had it and not to worry. At that the two meet in a room where the girl's father is. To which she tells him that it was his daughter who had returned. At that is revealed the name of the girl, which is Jia. At that Chen thinks that this was wrong, because that man had almost entered the gates of death, and that normal medicine could not save him. And he mentions that the Kai of Death had already reached his chest completely, and when it reaches his head, not even a great immortal could save him. At that Jia tells him that last month, his father was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer, and although they went to the best hospitals abroad, the treatment was still ineffective, so they had hired Dr. Q from the capital, but yesterday he had told them that his father would only last one more day. Jia pleads with Chen that he should hide all that so that his mother would not see or know about it. She also assures him not to worry about the amount of money, as this amount would not be small at all. At that we see Jia's mother, who tells her that Dr. Q said that her father would not survive beyond that day, and asks her daughter if that is true. She also tells her that if her husband dies, there would be no point in living anymore. At that Jia gets angry because she and the doctor were supposed to have planned not to tell her mother, and that the doctor had betrayed her by telling her the truth. But at that we see another guy who is apparently Jia's brother named Shen Minglong, and he tells her that she had to be honest, as it was very normal to grow old and die, so she asks him how come she dared to deceive their mother. He also says that he had already arranged the funeral and promised to give her a proper burial for her father. At that Jia claims to him that how could he do that at that time, since his mother was very ill. Minglong asks Mom, why are you so sad? So he tells her that his father had already lived such a hard life, so death was a relief for him, and that he could not see his father suffer all that time, and that when his father is gone, he would take care of the family and he would not treat her and Jia badly. At that, the mother of the two says in tears that she could not live without her father, and that when he dies, she would go with him. To which Chen thinks that he has discovered Minglong's intention, since when his father dies, the inheritance would be divided in 3 equal parts for him, his mother and Jia, but if his mother also died, the inheritance would be much juicier for him. But at that Jia also realizes what was going on, and he yells at his brother saying that his father was very sick and in that state, and that he didn't even pretend to be sad about it, and that for just a little money, now he wanted to kill his mother too. Jia tells him that he is an animal for that, but he replies that how dare she call him an animal, so if his mother wanted to die, he couldn't stop her. After that, Minglong tells Jia that if she ever said anything like that to him again, he would rip her mouth off. But at the moment Minglong tries to hit his sister, Chen intervenes and punches this guy in the face, telling him that his father was not dead yet. At that the doctor asks him who the hell was he, and if he didn't know that he was hitting the one who will become the head of the Shen family soon. To which Chen says that he will cure the patient if they give him 10 million. At that, the Shen family met in the corridors of the mansion's rooms, to which the mother asked Jia if that young man was really able to save her husband. To which Jia answers that she knew Yi Chen for a long time and that he was a very good doctor, so her father would quickly get well in his hands. But then Jia thinks that he is a swindler who took advantage of the commotion to openly ask for 10 million. But now she would wait to see how he would hide from her mother about her father. To which Minglong told her that he could not believe that she had hired a swindler to take over the inheritance, and asked her if she really believed that this guy could cure her father. He also tells her that if her father died, it was her fault, and that he would send that swindler to jail. While Minglong thinks that if she tries and fails, the inheritance would all go to him. At that, Gia tells him that if he doesn't shut up, she would beat that pig's head herself. Already inside the room, Chen was saying that this girl was lucky to have found him, and that the art of celestial healing that his old master had taught him was enough to bring him back from the gates of death, and that the Prota is invoking some kind of power with a ritual saying that his heaven is the earth, and the spirits and monsters represent evil, yin is the origin of good. This power is called demonic formation, return yin-yang. At that, Chen asks him to get up and thinks that the Kai of Death had enveloped him almost completely, making his meridians block, so his fate was sealed, but that there was still a small window and that if he could connect with it, even this could save his life. At that, Chen finds the Yang vein and demands the Death Kai to dissipate now. At that, Chen thinks that he did not believe that saving that guy would take away so much vital energy, so he should practice more. At that moment, our protagonist leaves the room saying that everything was already done and that soon he would wake up. Then Jia's mother is very happy and astonished and asks Chen if her husband would really wake up soon. Chen replied that she could see for herself, but that she had to pay him first, to which the lady thanked her and told her that all the money was on that card and that the password was 6 zeros. But at that, Minglong snatches that card and asks his mother to come to her senses, as his father had terminal lung cancer, and how could that guy cure something like that? To which Chen tells her that those 10 million were his fee for saving his father, but while Minglong demands that he at least wanted to see the results to make sure of everything. At that, the Prota takes him by the hand, and when he takes the card with his money, he tells him that this is his payment for his fee, and that is for the patient he will be up shortly, but that it will be for 3 days, and asks the family to call him in those 3 days, because he had to give him a medicine, and that otherwise, not even God could save him. At that, Minglong curses and says how dare that boy beat him up and steal his money, so he would have to call the police right away. And the doctor replies that he shouldn't worry, as he knew someone at the police station who could help him deal with all that. But at that moment when Jia's father comes out, Minglong could not believe what was happening and wonders how did his father survive a terminal lung cancer like that. At that moment, the father asks about the boy who had saved him, and greeting his wife and daughter, he thanks her and his friend for saving him from certain death. They could not believe it, and Jia's mother asked him if he was really awake and if he was already well. At that, the father turns to his son and sarcastically tells him that he has been doing very good things lately, to which the boy replies that he did it all for the good of the family, to which his father replies that he knew very well what his son had been doing while he was sick, so from that day on, Minglong could not even think of taking a single penny from him. He also tells him that he was a delinquent and that if it wasn't for that boy who came to save him, he might have really died. Switching the scene to the Hyume group, at the meeting we see that one of the guys says that unfortunately, the Hyume group stock price had plummeted, and that's why they were in trouble, to which another one of them says that it is going to be a difficult time for them. After that, we see 2 members of the meeting talking, and one of them says that he has seen the press conference, and that the oral beauty effect was just amazing, to which the woman replies that if the group doesn't release new products, sooner or later they will be crushed. At that, we see Sun wondering what they should do to cope with that situation. But at that, she realizes that it was stinging her chest, and realizes that it was the note that Chen had given her and wonders how did it get there. At that, she says that she will ignore that for the moment, although Chen had told her that this formula was worth 10 million. But at that, a woman with huge breasts, taking the note from him, tells him that now he would see what she was trying to hide in her underwear, and at that he asks her what that rejuvenation pill was all about. And while Sun demands him to return the note, the other girl asks him what kind of joke was that, and what swindler had given her that note that she treasured so much. Also, the busty girl asks him if she had slept with someone to get something like that, to which Sun replies to her not to believe that all women are as cheap and offered as she is, that she trades her body for a little money. Then he again demands her to return the paper, to which the woman replies that she will destroy it to do him the favor. But at that, Sun gets very angry and tells her that she was not the one to try to intimidate the others, even if it is just a piece of paper. After that, the others, seeing that Sun had hit the other girl, complain that those two were fighting again. At that, we see how Sun claims to the girl that those were her things and that she had no right to break them, to which the other girl replies that how dare he hit her just because of a piece of paper, and she tells him that just for that, she will tear his face off. But at that moment, we see another girl enter the meeting asking what the hell was going on there, and she demands them not to go around fighting, since the meeting was about to start. At that, she scolds Sunny and Suna, telling her that it seemed that they had nothing better to do at that moment. This girl who had entered last was none other than Zia Ryuxu, the president of the Hyume group. After that, Zia says that she was sure that everyone already knew very well what this meeting was all about, since nowadays, other companies produce advanced oral liquids, which made her wonder why Hyume's products were still so stagnant for so long. She gets angry and while pounding the table, she says that for 3 years, Hyume's beauty products had not been updated at all. Then she asks if they wanted her to cut off the heads of the R&D department. At that time, some subjects replied that it was not that they did not work hard, but that the beauty industry was too competitive, as they had researched all the existing formulas, and they could not find a better alternative. Also, the subject said that if their research and development department had gone around the world to collect recipes, but there were very few beauty recipes from ancient times, and they could not find the right formula even though they had searched the ancient books. To which Zia replies that she knew very well that beauty formulas are extremely rare and hard to come by. At that, she begins to remember that it had taken her 5 years to create the biggest beauty group in Jiangcheng, only to have her parents give up on a marriage they had arranged. So Zia wonders if she would really have to give up and accept the marriage. At that time Zia says it's just a simple beauty formula and demands that he tell everyone to get to work on it right away. But at that moment, Suna says that Director Sun had something big in her hands with a recipe for the rejuvenation pill, to which one of the subjects at the meeting is astonished and says that that was a lost formula from ancient times, and that if indeed Director Sun really had that recipe, it would really save the company. At that Zia asks Sunny if she really had that recipe, to which Sun replies that it was just something someone had written to her, and at that Zia asks her to show her that writing. Sun replied that it was just a joke that her friend had made, and that she apologized for it. And why would it be written on a simple piece of paper? At that moment, Suna thought she had gotten Principal Sun in trouble. But at that moment, one of the specialists said that the recipe was real. He also says that this formula was life or death for the group, and Suna had destroyed the recipe. To which Zia says that Suna from now on would no longer be part of the board of directors and asks her to leave the boardroom at that very moment. She also warns him that if they can't recover the formula, she herself would make sure that she would answer criminally. At that Suna claims that she did not know the recipe was real and that it was just a game, so it was not her intention. But at that point one of the guys tells her that it was clearly real, and that it was the original formula, and that their company depended on that drug, but that unfortunately they no longer have it complete. But if they recover the pieces of paper, they could make a breakthrough. At that Zia said that there was no time to lose, so everyone had to help Director Sun to recover the pieces of paper, since she had to recover the recipe at any cost. At that moment Suna burst with jealousy, and could not believe that Sunny had a real and important recipe. She wondered how can there be chance in the world. To which Zia tells her that it turns out that the recipe was true and that was good, but now they had lost it because of her fault for breaking it. Then she tells him that since she was now going to have a lot of free time, she should take care of the new store they had opened in town. Already at night and at Sun's house, she enters and asks if Chen had arrived and if he was already there. But realizing that he was not there, she could not believe that he had really given her a true formula. She also wonders if he would come back, in that she also thinks that Chen was a very strange guy, since he was very strong and possessed this knowledge for beauty. Then she wonders if it is possible that Yi Chen is some kind of big shot, and she thinks that if she managed to find out his true identity, he would leave her and disappear from her side. But at that she is surprised from behind by our Prota, who in turn tells her that he had heard her calling him, so he asks her what did she want. To which Sun asks him when he had arrived home, and he answers that he had just arrived and that he had heard her calling him. At that Sun gets nervous and stammers a lot, but manages to apologize to him because the recipe he had given her had been destroyed, so she would love for him to rewrite it for her. But Chen tells her that that recipe was for beginners at her school, and if she thought it wasn't good enough, he could write more for her. He also tells her that he was a bit tired because it had been a long day, so he would go to bed to sleep, and that she should do the same. But she holds onto his arm and asks him to wait, because she still had something to ask him something. To which Chen misunderstands things and tells her that even though he was very tired, if she asked him, he as a man would not say no to her. But at that Sun replies that that was not what she wanted to ask him, and that if he tried to do that kind of thing to her she would call the police. At that she reminds him that the first time she had seen him, he was desperate to see Miss Zia Ryuxu, but that it was a coincidence that after she finished their meeting today, Miss Zia Ryuxu was now the one who wanted to see him. At that moment, Chen tells him to forget it, as he was now unavailable, and asks if it was really worth going. To which Sun responds by asking him if he had not been the one who offended the entire security corps of the company just to see and talk to Miss Zia Ryuxu. But then Chen claims that the day before she had been ignoring him, and now she wants his help. At that she replies that she couldn't see him just like that, because she is the president and he had to make an appointment before. But Chen tells her that it was okay, but that she had to tell her president that it was she who had to come to see him, and that at that time he would decide whether to receive her or not. At that he closes the door and says he will go to bed, so they would continue talking in the morning. At that moment, Sun got a call on his cell phone from Zia, who wanted to ask him if he had been able to talk to his friend. Sun told her that she was the one who should go to see him. Zia replied that she would think about it and that there was no problem. She also tells him that until then, he was counting on her to keep an eye on him. After hanging up, Zia finds the situation very interesting, since he had made a fuss at the reception to be able to talk to her, and now he had taken this rebellious attitude. So now Zia was very interested to find out what kind of man this guy was. The next day, Chen was already in the Hall of Goodness, and he says that it was the biggest pharmacy in the whole place. He noticed that the queue was quite long, so he decided to take a look first, and when he saw a picture on the wall, he said that it was not bad as it was a copy. But at that, a girl accompanied by an old man asks him where did it come from, and she also asked him how he dared to say that his treasure was just a replica. The old man was Zhu Rend and the girl was Zhu Zixuan, to which old man Rend asks the girl not to be rude. But the girl replied to her grandfather that the boy had said that his painting was a fake, and that it was the treasure he had bought in the capital. To which the old man tells Chen that the painting had been examined by several expert collectors, so he asks how could he say that the painting was a replica. To which Chen replies that it proved to him that all those collectors, including the old man, were dullards, and also tells him that even though he had eyes, he couldn't see anything. He also says that the painting was really a good imitation, so he could keep it to fool people. Chen, walking away, provokes Zixuan, saying that he thought he could find something good in that store, but so far he had been wrong. But at that, Zixuan asks her grandfather to let her teach that rude boy a lesson, and old Rend replies that she shouldn't fight against the common people. But she doesn't listen to him and throws herself at the Prota, telling him that he was a big idiot. To which the grandfather thinks that since his granddaughter had been practicing martial arts, with that kick she was going to kill the young man. But at that moment, our protagonist stops the kick with his bare hands and asks the girl if that was all she had. She is surprised and thinks that it was not possible. After that, Chen asks her if she had had enough, in that Zixuan claims to him that until when he was going to hold her feet, because he already looked like a pervert. And the truth is that Chen's face did not cooperate much while he thought that this was a very bad girl. So he throws her to the ground and says that he would never have thought he would meet a martial artist there. But it was a pity that the martial arts she practiced was only for men, and not for women. So if she continues practicing it for a few more years, surely she would become useless. At that, Zixuan gets even angrier and yells at Chen that how could he dare to throw her like that. She also tells him not to even think that it would stay like that. To which the grandfather scolds her and tells her that enough is enough. He also asks her if she did not see it. To which Chen tells him that he had just blocked her kick without using real Kai, and that if he hadn't shown mercy, he would have really hurt her. At that, Zixuan tells him that how does an idiot like him know about true Kai? Then he gives a little demonstration of his power and asks the lady if this is how real Kai is used. At that time, Zixuan asks his grandfather to stay away from that dangerous person. But the old man addresses Chen, calling him little brother and apologizing, since his granddaughter's eyes did not recognize the power of the mountain, because after all she was just a child. At that, he asks his granddaughter to apologize quickly to the boy. After that, old Rend, who calls Chen again as a little brother, asks him to please enlighten him with his opinion, as he did not see any clue in the painting. To which Chen replies that since he was so interested to know, he would show it to him. As he hits the painting with his Kai, we can see the signature and date of the swindling painter. To which Chen says that this painting is very difficult to distinguish with the real one. That's why the swindlers dare to put their signatures that way. But by using a little Kai, the truth is revealed to them.